Hello there everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Unlimited video, continuing my series of deck profiles for set 3 with another one that I am extremely excited for. This is the leader that I wanted to play the most from a enjoyment of the character perspective, and that is Obi-Wan Kenobi. You can see I'm not playing around here. We had to grab ourselves that showcase as soon as I could. So yeah, really happy about this. It looks amazing, and I'm going to be playing this leader quite a lot, I think. And so this is Obi-Wan Red. And I think actually this is quite a generic and like versatile leader. To be honest, you could probably play it with pretty much every color combo, because I think like those tools now exist. The kind of, you know, blue-white insert third color here, or indeed second color if you're just going mono blue, is basically all viable with set 3 now existing. Now, I think red is probably the way I would go first. Green also looks very strong though, so I think those are both really viable. Mono blue is also looking really, really good. The weakest one I think is yellow, purely because there is just no reason to play Obi-Wan over Quinlan. I think like you're basically just playing the same deck. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So for those of you who don't know what Obi-Wan does, his action is you tap him and you heal 1 damage from a unit. He deploys on 6 resources as a 4/7. And he has Sentinel, and on attack, heal 1 damage from a unit. If you do, deal 1 damage to a different unit. So this is kind of just like a stabilization leader into aggro, and it's also one that just kind of lets you make like nice trades. If you survive, you can just heal up the unit. It takes a while. It's not like the most powerful leader ability. I think the big thing is the fact that he comes out on 6 with a Sentinel. And with Boba Fett being banned, that is a lot better, because you do have the tools to manage Sabine in this deck. So obviously that's the main thing we look at, like, okay, can we deal with Sabine? The answer is yes, we can. So let's keep looking. And obviously blue top end just gives you some of the most ridiculous options. So what I'm going to do is I've split the deck into a few different bits. So we got ground and we got space. So we'll start off with the ground 2-drops. So we got 3 copies of Jyn Erso and 3 copies of Sabine Wren. We'll talk about Jyn really quick. So Jyn is a 3/2 rebel that says while an enemy unit has been defeated this phase, it gains +1/+0 and gains Saboteur. So it's just a 3/2. It's the main reason we're playing it. Sometimes it's a 4/2, and sometimes you just get ridiculous trades. This is just mainly something to combat that 3/3 start on the ground. And then obviously Sabine to combat the Sabines, right? In terms of space, I think you have to play some space. And I'm on 3 A-Wing, obviously, and 2 copies of Anakin's Interceptors. This is a new card. Anakin's Interceptor is just a 3/2. It's just a 2/3. But while your base has 15 or more damage, it becomes a 4/3. So later on in the game, if you draw it, it feels fine. Although I will say you do find yourself healing quite a lot. I also want to flag at the moment I'm not playing Vigilance in this deck because it's kind of slow. A little bit tough to play. It's not like an amazing turn into like Sabine decks. But, you know, depending on the way the format goes, you might want to put Vigilance in. So that might then lead to a counter synergy with this card. Just, anyway, worth flagging. All right. 3 drops, I think, is where this deck becomes really exciting. So firstly, we have our first really, really significant new card here, and that's Captain Typho. This card is insane. So this is a 2/4 Naboo Republic Trooper. So not like any crazy stats for 3. But when played and on attack, give a unit Sentinel for this phase. This is so stupidly good, and I think I massively underrated it on my first reading. If you don't instantly answer this card, which can be a little bit annoying to do, it's a 4 HP body, so like it's not the easiest thing in the world. It's just going to sit there and just be really annoying. And you're not going to be able to answer it the turn it comes down because you just Sentinel up your 2-drop. And every turn it sits there, you just stall away damage, right? Like you just make it harder and harder for your opponent to deal damage to you. And once you get to the late game, this deck stabilizes like very, very well. Now, obviously, another 3-drop we play for space is going to be your Concord Dawn Interceptors. Of course, you play this card, it's very, very good into those space starts. Obviously, with Boba gone, it's not as useful into Fire Spray, but it's still very, very good. And of course, we do have to play 3 copies of Yoda, and this needs to be done because he's force-trated, but he's also Restore 2, and when defeated, to draw a card. Like, this card is insane, and so you definitely really want to be playing it. Onto the 4-drops, and we only play 1 in the main board, and that is Kanan Jarrus. This is a 4/5, Force Jedi, and on attack you can do some healing, but again, we're mainly playing this because it's force-traded. So just bear in mind, on turn 2 and turn 3, you probably want to be playing a Force most of the time to start setting up your Force synergies. On 5 drops then, we have 2 copies of Poe, and then we also have 2 copies of another new card, which is absolutely insane, and that is Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite. So obviously we know Poe is really strong. It's not like, but when you're not ECLing it in, it is a lot weaker. It is a card that, like, yes, it demands an answer, but like it's a more niche kind of application. Worth saying, if they do need to kill it in 2 hits, Obi-Wan's ability can come in. Like, he can be, quote, 7 HP, which can be the difference maker, but, you know, like, it's... Don't get too excited about it. Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite is ridiculous, though. This is a 4/6 for 5 in space, which is just crazy. And then, when played and on attack, you can deal 1 damage to this unit and 2 damage to another space unit. So, combined with Obi-Wan's Deploy, you can then start slinging 3 damage around, like, every turn. And this is a 4/6. So this is really, really, like... this longevity is amazing. So I think, like... I mean, arguably, I would want to go up to 3, but I think I found 2 has been fine. But yeah, like... this card is nuts. One of the best cards in the set for sure. It's just like finding space for it is basically the only challenge. For 6 drops, we have 2 copies of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yep, like you play this, then you... and any of your Force things are suddenly becoming very, very, very strong. Obviously, your leader does deploy and also have Sentinel, so you can't like guarantee the buff up and the shield and stuff on... sorry, the buff up and the draw. But like you can basically always get the 2 experiences, which is just nuts. And then for 7 drops, I play 1 Mace Windu. Got to be the champion Windu, obviously. And 3 copies of Luke. This is just to have 4 7 drops. Luke is ridiculous, and Mace is also ridiculous. As a 5/7 that is ambush, and he's basically just going to board clear. Or present like potentially lethal when your opponent is low on health, and you're able to just clear a unit. So those are the units. I will talk about the sideboard in a bit, because there are a few more units that are quite relevant that you might be wondering about. But we'll continue with the main deck. So in terms of events, we've got 2 copies of Takedown and 2 copies of Fell the Dragon and 2 copies of The Forces With Me and 1 copy of Pillage. And I think I just want to talk about the sort of the 4-drop event package because there's a lot of them here. So Takedown, obviously it's your answer to Sabine Leader. Fell the Dragon is your answer to big things, right? Like, for example, Wrecker. The Forces With Me is a super powerful card on curve, because if any of your things survive, and it doesn't need to be force traded, right? Like, yes, getting a shield is really, really nice. If you play Yoda and then Forces With Me on the Yoda to make it a 4/6, which means it's really hard to interact with, you give it a shield and then you nuke something, that is going to be insanely annoying for your opponent to deal with. That's a super, super powerful play. But even if you don't do that, if you just do it on a Typho or a Jin, and you just make it like a 5/4, like you are just going to be able to snipe out something, and that is like worth it. And again, everything you can choose here will one-shot Sabine Leader, and that's the big thing, right? We delete the Sabine, we remove the possibility of getting screwed over by a Darksaber, and we're fine. So, like, there's multiple units here that will do that. And then 1 copy of Pillage in the main. I think, like, Pillage is a really awkward card to use, but when you use it at the right time, it can just be completely game-swinging. On 3-drop events, we have 2 copies of Hello There. This card is really, really strong, I think. It's a little awkward. You need to use it at the right time, but the fact that you can just delete pretty much anything on curve with this card, and then on top of that, like, it affects leader deploys. So, for example, like, if your opponent deploys their Sabine and you go find Hello There it, like, even if they Darksaber it, you are probably going to be able to remove it that turn through a combination of just, like, swinging with all your other units. And even if you can't, you can put enough damage onto it that you probably can on the next turn. But yeah, like, this is just a very, very, very strong card. 2 copies of It Binds All Things. This card is super good, and it hasn't really had a great home until now. But I think with Obi-Wan, this is the first time, like, you could have played it in Rey, but I think Rey was just a little too fragile on deploy. Like, you needed to immediately attack with her, and usually she would just kind of, like, she would kind of get 1 shot at 6 HP, but at 7, you're kind of survivable enough that you might be able to get the action. But even ignoring that, like, we play Force units that you can trigger this off of, and this is nuts. You heal 3 damage from any unit, so that you can just do. But then, if you control a Force unit, you can deal that much damage to another unit. So, plays you can do is healing your opponent's things to clear one of their units, right? So don't forget that, right? If your opponent has like 3 damage on something and they play out something that you need to deal with, you can It Binds All Things to just move that damage around. And they might not expect that. So just be aware of that versatility. And obviously, the big reason we are playing this color combo is Force Throw. This card is ridiculous, and that's why we play as many Force units as we do, because the payoff is crazy if you get a solid Force Throw on the opponent. We also play a couple of upgrades. So that is 2 Jedi Lightsaber. If you get this card on a force unit and it sticks. It's ridiculous. And 2 copies of a new card, Perilous Position. I really like this card over Make an Opening. It only exhausts for the 1 turn, but it gives the -2/-2 permanently, and it can go onto leaders. So, like, you slap this onto Sabine leader, and, like, you are so fine. You know, suddenly she's a 0/3. You can Darksaber her, that's fine. If you're spending your whole turn to, like, Darksaber a rested Sabine, I'm okay with that. Especially one that I'm probably going to be able to deal with relatively easily on the next turn. Yeah, just super, super good card. So that is the main board. I really like this deck. I think it's super, super fun. I don't think it's like meta breaking, but like I think it's like tier 1.5, tier 2. Like you can, I would take this to a Source Showdown for sure, and I would have a great time with it. Looking at the sideboard, we have 1 Crate Dragon. You could probably play 2. 2 Redemptions. I'm not mainboarding these at the moment just because I think it's a little bit challenging to survive that long into Sabine, but maybe like I need to test it more and maybe it's fine. And 1 Windu, that's our sort of like top end package. And this is just giving you like more top end for those matchups where you need it. 2 copies of Steeler Garara. So this card isn't in the main, but I really like it. And it basically just lets you search for tactics. Now, obviously, into Sabine, dealing damage to your base, not good. But into everything else, probably fine. 2 copies of Disabling Fang. Oh, sorry. We also have 1 extra Pillage and 1 extra Fell the Dragon. So Steeler can search, Fell the Dragon, Pillage, and Takedown. So in the matchups, like you can basically tech in what you need. Like usually you will not need the takedowns in the matchups where you want the fells and the pillages. So you put those in, you take out the takedowns, and you put in 2 copies of Steeler Garara, like siding as necessary, right? Like usually some of your early game is less necessary into those non-Sabine matchups, but hello, there can be worse, for example. It depends. And then you also you'll want to put in some more of your top end usually in those matchups. So things like, you know, well, things like Hello there end up being worse, or like whatever happened, right? And then lastly, we got 2 Disabling Fang Fighter for matchups where Concord Dawn is less useful, but you really need to hit a upgrade. Honestly, a very strong argument to mainboard this into Sabine. I'd probably side out the Aether Sprite for this in that case, or maybe the Poe. Actually, I'd probably side out the Poe over the Aether Sprite and just put in the Disabling Fangs or something, just so it's something to interact with the Darksaber. But like basically, this is just like a contingency plan. So this is the whole list: sideboard, mainboard. I think this deck is good. I would really recommend playing it. I think it's super, super fun. If you guys enjoy this video, like, subscribe to the channel. Now, I have done a giveaway. The giveaway is for this starter deck. And so what I'm going to do is the giveaway for that is closed, and you are going to be able to find out who won on my Twitter at the end of the weekend. So this is going up on a Saturday. So by Sunday you will know, and I will reach out to you, and we will organise shipping. So thanks so much for watching this video. Like, subscribe, all the usual stuff, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Cheers.